Let's call our meeting to order. We do have a quorum, so we can conduct business this morning. There are, most everybody knows everybody, with one exception. We have a new person with us this morning. I understand Kevin Moore has just recently joined AD and stepping into Tiffany's whole role. And welcome, Kevin. We're glad you're here. Welcome to Bluegrass AD.
Thank you very much.
Happy to meet you, sir.
I've been with the ad before, back when it was WIA a long time ago. I've been involved in the Career Center and workforce for 15 years. So, and most recently I was the quality person for the direct service provider for Equus.
So you're not a rookie at all.
No.
That's for sure.
No.
That's for sure. We're very glad you're here. And
Thank you very much.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Tiffany, again, I don't think there's anyone else that's new to our meeting. Thanks everybody for being here. Looks like we have Judge West and Todd and Stacy online, and who else?
Judge
Judge K is on.
Yeah.
Morning, Judge K. Somewhere.
Morning.
There you are. We'll move to item number 2 on our agenda, action items. And first on the list is review and approval of minutes from our December 20th, 23 meeting, which is in your packet. If you've had an opportunity for members to review those already, when someone is comfortable, we'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Move approval.
Mayor has made a motion to approve. Do you hear a second? Second. Judge Hamilton seconds. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? All in favor of the motion signify by aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Next is item 2.
Just 1 second. The next item is the finance report, and let me run upstairs and see where Colin.
Okay.
We've got, okay.
So let's skip to 3. Okay.
Yes.
So we'll bypass 2 for the moment and skip to 3, shift and strategic plan reporting. And Tiffany is going to share with us regarding that.
So typically with our strategic plan, we get the information that everybody gets the information to Stacy. She just updates it, right? And we say, here's the link to it for you all to go look at. What I want to do is twice a year, take a deep dive, set like 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes devoted to maybe our June meeting and our December meeting to actually discuss the strategic plan and what we're doing in each county to meet those goals. That's the whole part of just shifting it. At our annual training, we always give a big update, but to me, it's one of those things that you need to check some balance along the way, right? So the ask is just for our June meeting and our December meeting to designate 20, 25 minutes just to talking about the strategic plan.
And you're talking about in this meeting, not
Yes.
this meeting. Okay. So do we need to take an action to approve doing that? I assume we really don't need to.
Well, listen, with our,
Other than everyone have consensus that we plan to do that.
yeah, I know with our WIB, they voted on it, so
Okay.
I'm a little new to figuring out I'm a little today,
But we can never go wrong by taking an action to approve something.
Right.
Go wrong by not taking an action to approve something we should have. So we'll entertain a motion to approve review of a strategic plan a couple times a year at Tiffany's direction. Entertain a motion to approve that. Everybody understand what? Did everybody hear Tiffany? Judge West, I think, just made the motion. You're a second?
will second, but I have a comment.
Go ahead, yes,
So second.
yes.
Motion is seconded by Mayor Gordon, and she would like to comment.
My only comment is that our June meeting is scheduled on a government holiday for us, so I think I've already let you know, Judge Williams, that I will not be here. And that's just kind of an aside. So I won't be here in June.
Any other questions or comments regarding the motion? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thanks, everyone. We do have here, so we'll go to item number 2, review and approval of finance reports for November, December, and January is enclosed in the packet. All of those reports are enclosed in the packet, so Colin, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, sir. Good morning. So we've got a lot of financial ground to cover, but I'll try to be as succinct as possible. So in November, at our overall budget total we were at 30% expended on our overall. That's compared with 43% in the prior year. Our admin was at about 39%, as compared with 45% in the prior year. Our adult expenditures were at 29%, and that was down from 95% in the prior year. Our dislocated worker program was at 22%, as compared with 45% in the prior year. And our youth was at 32%, as compared to 51% in the prior year. Then we were at 17% expended on our work experience requirement for the youth program. If anybody has any questions about that, the chart is show you just it's the very top line is the actual from 2023, and then the smaller line on the bottom is supposed to show where we are so far in fiscal year 24. So it's a comparison of our totals.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. To what do you attribute all of those being significantly down?
The percentage of funds used. Well, so as we rolled into fiscal year 24, we did have an issue where we were, as you recall, in September of last year, we had to pay back some of that money that we overspent on because of our budgetary issue. But when we received funding for fiscal year 24, we had to pay back some of those funds out of that allocation. So it was like $300,000 or so was pulled directly out of our adult funds. That's something like $20,000 pulled directly out of our displaced worker funds. And so because we had that deficit at the start, or reduced funding at the start, we just kind of laid low and tried to keep expenses down, going into calendar year 2024.
Okay,
So from the July to December, our goal was to, let's just kind of keep the status quo, keep our finances, keep our expenditures down. And now that we've kind of made it around the 2023 to 2024, we started to, we've hired some more staff. We've got a dedicated workforce director now. And then also, we didn't actually get our second, so we get funding in February of July. We get funding in October every year. The October funding is generally a lot larger than the July funding. And that October funding was important to us. And we didn't know what we were going to get until early December. And that was, we talked to the state, they didn't know how to allocate because the unemployment rate was so low. They allocate money to everybody based on unemployment rate in their area. And so the unemployment rate was less than the 6.5% threshold. And so they were waiting on guidance from the Department of Labor, and it just took a while. I talked to Michelle and Rachel over there and at the state, and they were very clear that, sorry, we don't know.
Yeah, because it was across the
We've been in touch with
state.
the DOL, but they've got to tell us exactly what we're supposed to do. So that was the issue.
So across the state, the technical, which should be in
Everybody.
October,
Every ad had this.
didn't come until December.
Yes.
So,
So we finally got that information in December, and the money was overdone to us.
Okay, so would you say, I'm just trying to understand this. Would you say this reflects, fewer services to people because, number one, less money, and number two, less need?
No.
Because of the unemployment being so low?
No, it
Am I
was, we're
misunderstanding?
focused, for this time, we were focused less on paid services and more on just the, the general case management. Let's keep up.
If I can speak to that, Mayor, I think what it is that we're still providing those basic services that don't require funds. So we may have not have been putting as many people in a funded service like a training or an internship during that time, but we're still providing those basic services and connecting people with jobs. But I think our goal was to not spend a lot of money with the uncertainty of how much we would receive. We wanted to be able to obviously finish out the program year, but our service level has never decreased based on the availability of funds. We were just providing those services that are more basic in type and connecting people with direct hires of employment instead of supplementing it with internships and training.
Okay, I appreciate that very much. Thank you, both of you.
because I was gonna say, this all goes back to the fact that with the issues that happened with the funds last year, the DSP was given a total that was higher than what our allotments were. So we knew, like, I know in all the meetings, Mike Riley, beans and rice, rice and beans, beans and rice, rice and beans, that's what that comes back to, because we knew that we were gonna have a slow start to this program year.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Does anyone else have any questions? I'm sorry.
Just
Yes,
ask
David.
a couple questions, just real quick.
Sure.
So I understand what you got here going with the graph, the projections and the bar chart. The one thing that gets hard to see, because the gray line drops off with what the forecast is, and that's the forecast based on the budget numbers that you've told us. And I understand the comparison between the prior years and the actual. But I think that one thing that could be helpful would be the variance between the budgeted forecast and the actual. Because you can't, once you
Yeah.
dropped off from November, you don't see it anymore, it's gone. So you see, I can kind of tell from the trend that you're on a glide path. It looks pretty close to what the forecast is, but I think having that variance in there could be beneficial. Yeah. And then the other question I had for you, Tiffany, or Todd, you may have answered it already. So I understand that the federal budget, or the funds that are received, is based on somewhat related to the unemployment rates. And we all know that the unemployment rates are lower, but yet a lot of the services that you all provide are not related to unemployment. I mean, there's adult, there's youth,
Correct.
and even dislocated worker in a way is not unemployment. It's because you're transitioning jobs, you're upskilling, you're doing things like that. So my question is like, how do we plan working with the cabinet and how do we advocate for continuity of services? Because there's a baseline that you all have to provide, regardless of what the unemployment rate is. And God forbid, if something happened with the economy and the unemployment rate went the other way around, you wouldn't be able to go out and hire 5 more caseworkers, instantly, because it takes a while to staff.
Correct.
So can you give us any insight into how that works? And if I'm making
I don't understand what you're saying,
That's
because
right.
our funds, the formula funds are always connected with the percentage of your dislocated workers in the states, right? Now, if you're talking about the services, like on a whole of our services, just because WIO is about creating taxpayers, right? Employed individuals. So our funds, you confused me, you kind of talked in circles there, so I don't know exactly what you're asking.
I guess what I'm asking is, are there factors other than unemployment rate which go into the
Oh.
amount of dollars that are received?
Yeah, it's formula funds though, and that's one of the things like with the WIOA reauthorization. I know that all the states have pushed for them to relook at everything they come into play because you've got the unemployment rate and then, we just went over it in the fiscal training. What's the word I'm looking for it? It's the unemployment rate, and then there's another thing that's connected with economic development, and they had a technical term for it, but it is lost to me right now.
Okay, that's fine.
But I mean, your question kind of, to put it in basic
Yeah,
terms is, if unemployment went to zero,
right.
what work would still be going?
There you go.
Okay,
Is that?
I can't see that unemployment will ever go to 0%.
No, I'm just saying
Right.
that would help us understand.
You're still gonna have individuals who need upskilling, right? If you're gonna have, let's say that I work as janitorial staff at UK Hospital, right? But I don't wanna stay there. I wanna be a nurse. So then they would come to the career center, we would do upskilling and things like that. We would still have those tuition funds, those ITA funds to do tuition assistance and things like that. You also have to think about the fact that WIOA is technically the business is actually the customer. We, on the case management side, we get that good feeling that the individual person is the client. Technically, it's the business is the client, right? So even if unemployment is 0, employers will still want to do OJT, work-based learning, things like that, because it saves them money.
That's
Right,
actually,
it cuts their bottom line, because like, whenever we do the OJT, right, an individual's hired on at a company, they are there for 24 weeks, they have to hit certain metrics, but we reimburse that company 50% of the wages. On the work-based learning opportunities, that individual is on the DSP's payroll for the first 480 hours. So the employers get to train someone, they are saving money so that they can use those funds in another way. So even if the unemployment rate goes to 0, people will still need to be upskilled and the employers will still need WIOA services.
And Tiff,
Yeah.
Tiff, I'll say that in addition to that, I mean, regardless of the unemployment rate is 0, that just means that the rate of people that should be looking for work, have found work. We're still going to be doing our workshops, our employability workshops. We're going to be doing our outreach at the libraries. We're going to be working with individuals to find better employment. So in addition, if there were no funds to do trainings or ITAs, we would still be providing those basic services.
And the same thing with the businesses, we're always, there's that basic career service that we offer businesses that we work with, or employees. There's also that basic career service that we offer employers as well, such as job posting. We can work with them with recruitment, whether it's helping them connect to the school systems. Right now, that's a big push right now, is working with the school system, but it's eliminating that gap between education and workforce. So even that recruitment, so there's like that basic career services that will never go away.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, go ahead, Norman.
So if there's no further questions on November, I'll move on to December as well. Okay. So in December 2023, our overall budget was expended about 36%. That's compared with 66 in the prior year. Our admin was at 40% as compared to 57 in the prior year. Adult was 22 versus 122 in the prior year. Dislocated worker was 29% compared to 56% in the prior year. Our youth was at 38% as compared with 64% in the prior year. Then our work experience was about 20% expended.
So then the differentiation and the numbers is for the same reason that we just talked about in November.
Yes, similar situation. And then at the very bottom of this report in particular, it was asked of me in the WIB board to add the dates that we received our invoices from our service provider, and then the date that the draw was requested. So this is just to confirm that our November and December invoices are up to date with Equus. And you'll see this same thing on the January.
That's a good addition.
Yep. Thank you. Thank Dolly who requested that. That was a good idea. Then, last but not least, we're in January. Our January overall budget was at 43% expended. That's compared with 70% in the prior year. Our admin was at 57%. That's compared with 65% in the prior year. Our adult expenditures were 27%. That's compared with 123% in the prior year. District worker was 33%. That's compared to 59% in the prior year. Youth expenditures was 44%. That's compared to 73% in the prior year. And our work experience was at 20%. That's compared with 94% in the prior year.
And the prior year here is the fiscal year, not the calendar.
Correct. Yes, fiscal year 23, June 2022 to July 2022 to June 2023. And then our January Equus invoice was received on the 12th, and we requested the draw on the 27th. That was paid out to them a week or two ago.
So when you say draw requested, is that the day that check?
That's the day that we send all the information to the state when with all the detail of all these. So we send a draw request. It says we need X amount of dollars of adult, X amount of dollars of disclaimed worker from that specific disclaimed worker grant, this specific adult grant, and a list of all of our transactions and also our documentation for all of the required the transactions that require documentation. So that's the day we request it with the state. They review it. They might come back with some questions, a day or two later, and then they'll send the money.
They actually make the payment directly.
Yeah, and we pay Equus the day after that we receive that. Okay. So on the day of the draw requested, generally you're talking maybe a week later they get paid, something like that.
Anything else, Colin, or this?
No, sir. Those are our black and white numbers.
We'll entertain a motion to approve Colin's report for November, December, and January, as he's just discussed.
Move approval of November, December, January report.
Mayor has made the motion. Here a second. Judge
Second.
I can see it in his eyes.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. Are there any additional questions or comments or comments regarding the report or the motion? All in favor indicate by aye or raising your hand. Anyone opposed? Motion is approved. We can move to item 4, meeting location for the joint meeting, which is scheduled for 9/26/24. That seems like a long way away, but it'll melt away, be right here.
So we had 3 possible locations, and we had talked before about moving it to different counties.
Yes, ma'am.
So the counties we looked at for this one are in Fayette, having it at the Doubletree Hill over on Richmond Road. The cost if we go there is about $2,500 for food and $1,000 for audio visual, so $3,500. Then we looked at Jessamine County, the co-op office, which is not available on our date. And then the KCTCS in Versailles, which is free, completely free. So we would have to do, all we would have to do is the food, and we're kind of working on something cheap to free, but, so those are our three options. Or, which is actually only two.
That's what we were hoping you'd say.
And the Bluegrass is a really nice setup with two really big rooms for us to use and
We go there once before.
we go there, yeah.
I was thinking that's a nice facility.
Yeah.
Very nice. That's where Dr. Paul's office is, right?
Oh,
He actually
That's
goes
right.
right there today.
stop and say hi.
Yes. That's, so do we need to, Robin, do we need to decide to set a preference?
Yes.
Our preference is, but would everyone agree your preference is to go to the KCTCS offices or facility in Woodford County? Is that okay with you, Judge Kay?
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, we'll entertain a motion to declare that our meeting location for our joint meeting on September 26th, later this year, would be the KCTCS facility in Versailles. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Judge Kay has made that motion. Judge Hamilton seconds that motion. Does everyone understand what we're planning for? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Sir? Motion does carry. Any other action items, Tiffany, that you think of that we need before we move on? Okay, we'll move to item number 3 on our agenda, informational items. First on the list is Bluegrass said, Area 21, final WIOA comprehensive monitoring report. This is enclosed in the packet, and Tiffany wants to share with us regarding that report. Soon.
Yes, sir. So the PY 21 monitoring reports in your packet, that ran for PY 21, it runs from 7/1/21 to 6/30/2022. There was no doubt that we knew there would be issues of missing documentation in this one simply because the previous WIOA financial officer and the previous CFO kind of didn't follow all the guidelines that they needed to when uploading documents into the work system. So if you'll scan through, because the only finding on the program side is just a violation of a follow-up policy, right? And all that means is one of our case managers didn't touch base with the person within the 90 days, right? And that happens at times. We've provided a training. There's more checks and balances in place to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And then you'll go to the financial monitorings, right? The findings on it. The big thing with it that I point, if you look in the DWD responses, the local workforce development board provided everything that the state needed, and the finding is resolved, right? There's no disallowed costs, there's no question costs or anything like that. We have put other checks and balances in play to make sure that this doesn't happen again. That's one of the, like most of the stuff that we set into play for this program year is simply because of things that happened whenever the previous WIOA financial officer was not doing what she was supposed to do. That's just, maybe not politically right to say it that way, but that's what it is. She wasn't doing what she was supposed to do.
A big part of that was, it was literally, there's like 2 or 3 whole pages in there that says MapQuest missing. They went from the Career Center to the Lexington Career Center to Georgetown, and Georgetown to Richmond, whichever. And the previous, so before, Kelsey, the understanding was that the service providers, direct service staff were not required to submit their time or their travel sheet with MapQuest for those specific you know,
From
I'm
Career
just going
Center,
to the
Career Center only.
If I'm going to, you know, another location, you know, off-site, then I'm gonna provide my own MapQuest with that. But, it was just something I think that got missed perhaps maybe by my predecessor, that she needed to be adding the page that showed that trip to the Career Center, between Career Center and Career Center.
I mean, so you're talking about, you literally have to turn in a piece of paper that
Yes.
has a picture of the
It shows
map,
directions.
path that
It
you
shows the
took to
exact
make
route.
that trip.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks.
It's a requirement.
And Colin, we provided, I'm fairly certain, Jennifer's not here today. She's got to take her dad to the doctor, but I'm fairly certain that we provided the state with a spreadsheet that showed office to office. And as those office locations aren't going to change, we provided them with that, and they told us, look, we understand these are the offices that you're going to be traveling back and forth to. You don't need to do a MapQuest each time. We understand that this is the mileage from Georgetown to Lexington. So we provided our staff with that same spreadsheet. That way, when they were doing their travel reports, they could look at it and say, okay, I went from Georgetown to Lexington, that's 22 miles. And so the understanding was that spreadsheet sufficed for the time or in place of the MapQuest. But when it came to monitoring, we were told, well, you have to have the MapQuest as well.
Yeah.
Because at no
That's a
point did like Equus, the DSP staff, they provided all the information that they were where they needed to provide it. Right, they did.
It's just a simple thing that we went through painstakingly. Every single one that was missing MapQuest, we went ahead and printed them off and included that, resubmitted to the state and their hackers. And going forward, it's just understood everybody's submitting their travel with MapQuest, even if they're just going cruising. So.
And then even on this part here where it says missing documentation for SETA training and the non-conference, that's where the previous financial officer did not upload the information into the state work system.
So all the findings are resolved.
Yes.
Yep.
They require no further action.
Yep, all findings are resolved, no disallowed costs, no question costs at all.
Does anybody have any questions regarding this report? I'm sorry, Tiff, is there anything else you want to
No,
say about
that's
the report?
Other than we put in, I don't know what other checks and balances we can put in, to make sure that everything's there. There's lots of eyes on it.
I'm trying to picture somebody having the job, the responsibility to make sure there's a picture of a map to prove that you traveled 20
And
miles.
there is an individual that has that responsibility,
Okay.
so.
So then the tragedy is that government requires it.
Yes.
That somewhere in the file cabinet, I assume in Frankfurt, that piece of paper still is sitting there now, never to be seen again. You get presumed.
I'm very quick to say,
Archaeologists will look it up.
we kill trees nonstop and we own it.
Someday the state historic preservation office will require verification that the picture MapQuest was located in that office at that point. On that, I'm sorry. Fascinating sometimes. Okay. Leo, executive committee meeting location change.
Your next one will be at the Kentucky Career Center.
Okay, great.
So
Everybody okay with that?
we still have, the one here in Lexington, the one here in Fayette County.
Okay.
And it'll still be set up. We'll have the owls there for anyone that needs to zoom in, teams in. So, but yeah, we're just gonna start moving all the meetings over there.
But if you haven't been there, I highly encourage it.
Yeah.
So starting in our next meeting will be June?
Yep.
Okay. And so the intent is to always have our meetings there? Is that, okay. Everybody understand that?
And listen, as it gets, we'll make sure, like, we'll send updates to say, hey, remember, it's gonna be over there instead of at the ad. Now, if something were to come up and you all needed it to be here at the ad, we can. I just think it would be very good for you all to see everything that has happened at the Career Center, so.
Need to change the policy for that to require Leos to provide a lab
Well,
After
test. This will be my entertainment for the week, I assure you. I'm sorry, Dave.
no, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think it's important to point out that the Leos don't get reimbursed for your mileage from things, so, that's not required because you pay out of pocket, so.
So if you provide the map quiz, we'll double your pay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's got it.
The next step is we'll provide.
I'm sure you'll have.
GPS. Like, you need to, the next is you need to get your GPS tracking on your phone.
Yeah.
Right.
That'd be pretty fun.
I am trainable, I am capable of doing it. Just barely, but I can do that. Robin will have to send 15 reminders to us to make sure we don't all show up here, that we show up. Okay. Workforce update, and we've got a long list here, so Rolando, you're going to do that for us, and Stacy and Tiffany. Start with.
So just a little bit of an update on the Bluegrass Farm and Depot. We're still working with them for their closure. It has been a team effort. It's not just a one-person thing. There's been moving parts throughout the process. Since August of last year, August 23rd of last year, we have scheduled 4 rapid responses. And if you don't know what rapid response is, it's basically one of those basic career services that we were talking about earlier, where we do a service to the company, but also the job seeker that's getting laid off. And what a rapid response consists of is how do we make that layoff just a little bit easier? So we connect them to different types of resources that are available throughout the community, whether that's connecting them through the unemployment office, whether that's providing somebody from the Department of Labor to talk about the benefits piece of it. You know, what are they going to do with their retirement? What are they going to do with their insurance and things of that nature? So there's a representative there to speak about that. Occasionally we have the community college come there and talk about different upskilling opportunities they can take advantage of. But all in all, is to provide information about what's available to them once they get laid off. Occasionally, certain organizations that have us over to their facility, they allow us to bring in some employers, and then we can say, hey, look, these employers are hiring, let's get you connected to them as well, so they can do an easy transition to get them placed to employment. But anyway, since then, we've had 4 rapid response scheduled. One of them was canceled due to nobody needing to participate. There's been about 2 waves of layoffs. The first one was geared more towards individuals that were retiring. They were that group that kind of raised their hand first, say, look, I'll be willing to retire. This second wave that we just had was individuals that were actually getting laid off, losing their jobs. So we've had staff in the Career Center in Richmond who have dedicated Fridays as an opportunity for them to go there and receive basic career services such as resume, help them brush up on their resume, job search, whether they need to do mock interviews, anything of that nature to get them brushed up for the next opportunity that awaits them, and also connecting them to jobs that are available. As of today, we've been working with 2 workforce consultant managers there at BGCAP, and they are hosting a job fair. We're not throwing it, but we have been advising them who to invite, and they've asked recommendation what employers to invite and whatnot, but they have a job fair coming up on April 24th and 25th for their entire staff there at BGCAP, to get them connected to employers. Make sure I'm not missing anything. We've also, a grant has been submitted that's been worked on for those individuals. It's a national dislocated work grant, and the grant is really to either do on-the-job training opportunities, but it's only been submitted to the Department of Labor to review. So
They came back with one suggestion, and we just got to update.
So it's not fully done yet, but that's the ongoing goal to do that. But we We Owe Services, so they can come to the Career Center anytime. So just because we applied for the grant, it doesn't mean that we can't serve these people. They can come to the Career Center anytime to receive We Owe Services. The grant is just more of a, here's additional stuff that we can do. I think that maybe pretty much covers it, unless I'm missing anything.
Can you remind us how many people we're talking about that are affected?
You know, I get that question a lot, and Judge, I wish I had a direct answer for you,
Number.
but I tell you, we have been given about 4 or 5 different answers to that question. And it's funny because they'll give us one answer. I will say it's a range between 1,700 to 950. Now, how much is it really? I don't know that exact answer. And the reason being is because if you talk to a certain group, they'll tell you 1,700. When they gave us the numbers for the grant that we were applying for, I ain't no mathematician, but I added it all up and it's 950. So, you know, somewhere along the way, it's not accurate somewhere. But it's anywhere between 1,700 to 950.
And the way that they do it was a federal contract, right? From my understanding, whenever we spoke with Sam, right, because he's on the federal side.
Yeah.
When they talk about those numbers and those closures, they're going back from when it very first started. So when the project first began, there may have been 1,700 positions, right? All 1,700 positions, let's just say they only filled 1,500, right? So they're still going on, when we ask for the rapid response numbers, right, they're going on the number of active positions they have instead of people. Like, we're used to counting people, right?
So when they say they're losing 65 jobs, there may be only 30 people occupying those jobs, but they're still counting as 65 jobs. That just means that particular job is no longer a valid job there at the facility. And I will say, we've kind of learned throughout the process. I know Kevin was in our last meeting and Tiffany, and we've met with, so there's a lot of groups that make up the whole entire project. We focus a lot on that EG, or the contractors. They call it the plant side. I didn't know that until just the other day, but they call it the plant side, which is your contractors, which is Bechtel, Parsons, Momentum, all those groups. However, you also have your Bluegrass Chemical Activity Group, which Amy, you were part of that too, which there's about 150 of those individuals. It's a whole separate group from that plant side. And then there's also a security group, which is about another 200 or so, which is represented by.
That we just found out the other day when we met with Sam.
So there's about 3 different groups that make up that number. We just kind of tend to focus on the plant side.
The general public perception is that everybody works there as a federal employee. That's not true.
Correct.
There's several different employers, and regardless of who the employer is, the same services officer.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and like I said, Fridays have been open, just dedicated to those individuals. They can come there and, you know, they just need to talk to a talent development specialist to discuss what's next, what's available. They've been sitting there waiting on it. Let's take advantage of it. And that's all I have for the GG piece.
Thank you, sir. Next on the list, looks like you're going to talk to us regarding Quest Transformation Initiative.
So, there was a Quest grant that we applied for. It's a grant, it's a $200,000 grant that we're working with, the Recovery Center. We discussed utilizing it with Shepherd House. There's the men's facility here in Lexington and also the women's facility in Boyle County that we're working with. And it's really to identify 30 individuals who we're looking to work with, to place them into the workforce. So with this grant, we're kind of dedicating it to 30 really dedicated individuals that we're looking to place into the workforce. This can include construction and manufacturing. It's kind of like the focus we've had with the whole thing, but it's not limited to that. That's just kind of the focus we've had. The key piece here is that they will not be making anything less than $15 an hour. So any type of employment that we find and connecting to the workforce is going to be $15 or more. really it's just working with that recovery house to, for them to identify 30 individuals. It doesn't all have to happen at once. It could be sprinkled out throughout the year. But, it's really finding some individuals who's looking to change their lives, and really ready to get back into the workforce and really trying to make a difference in their life.
So who would make the decision who those 30 people are? Would it be
Shepherd's House is the one that's kind of sending it over to us.
it's there, and we can rely on their.
Well-
This is the person that's ready.
Correct, right, because what we've seen before is with, some of our recovery centers that we've worked with, there's different phases, right? I know there's phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. They wanted to give them to us at phase 1, in which they're still, some were still in withdrawal. And they were trying to get them to go ahead, us to go ahead and provide services. So whenever we, looked at applying for this, we had a discussion with Jennifer and Todd, and, Kevin was with Equison, you know what I mean, on who do we need to focus on? Who's one of some of the recovery centers that, understand when an individual is ready to start to go back into the workforce. You know, it's so different. I'm sorry you can't be in the middle of active addiction and even you're not even in a good mindset to show up for work on a daily basis. And whenever we talked to discuss, Shepherd's House was the one who reached out to Shepherd's House, see if they wanted to partner. And the key thing about the $15 an hour is the Department of Labor has came down to say that a good job is at least $15 an hour, right? So that's one of the stipulations with this grant, and it has to be that. So like, we're not gonna work, we're not gonna send them to a restaurant because not all the restaurants pay 15. We need to look at the sectors that actually had good wages. So, and like healthcare is one of the top ones, but you have to be very careful with that, because if you have an individual that's in addiction, them being in a healthcare setting isn't always the most healthy thing for them, emotional, in their addiction, in their recovery path. That makes sense.
Do we have priority employers that we would look to?
Yeah, we looked at a couple of employers who signed a letter of support, who's interested. So for instance, I know like Tiffany Walls, she's on our board and she's with Oliver Summit. She was interested in participating. Piston Automotive actually signed a letter of support. However, they're closing down. But they're in Toyota, but they were one of the companies who signed that letter of support. But it really is any manufacturing company who really pays that wage, that is willing to work with us, and also working with individuals who've recovered from addiction. And then also Amtech, which John Daugherty is also our chair of our board. He has volunteered to say, hey, look, I'm interested in working with this grant as well. And
the Carpenter Millwright are definitely interested. They just didn't have enough time because once a union, they've got a whole lot of hoops they got to jump through to get any type of letter of support that they are on board to and willing to take people as quick as we can send.
So really, if you have a company who's interested, that it just comes to your door, or you've heard from the water cooler and said, hey, look, I'm interested in looking for people and I pay this much and I'm open to doing second chance opportunities, feel free to let us know about it. We'll be more than happy to talk to them.
Does anybody else have any questions regarding this report? So actually, the $200,000 would be used specifically to.
Client services only.
It wouldn't
It works out.
supplement or be actual payment of hours work.
Yes, that's what it is. It's a work-based learning, right? So it'll be 30 individuals at $15 an hour. It worked out to be 280 hours. And then we have $20,000 set aside should they need supportive services, meaning work groups, because we have a lot of individuals that once they get into that phase 3, right, and they're ready to start in the workforce, they've not worked, right? So they don't have money for steel-toe boots. They don't have money for, the the workflows and things like that. So we have that supportive service set in there, yeah, also. But the funds will go directly paid to the individual. If Rowley's at Shepherd's House, they deem him to be ready, he's in phase 3, and all that stuff, and then he comes to us, we're gonna charge DSP staff, they're gonna interview him, they're gonna say, okay, are you looking at manufacturing, construction, all that? They're gonna get his paperwork done, get him enrolled, get him, let's say he wants to do, electrical construction, he would go to Amtech. The wages would be paid straight to him, right, for that. It's not a subsidy that we give to the employer. It goes straight to, he works 40 hours a week, then he's getting 40 hours a week at $50 an hour minus taxes.
So what the employer is
The
getting
employer's incentive is
they're
somebody's going to work your force for 280 hours. and
Right.
they don't have to pay it.
correct.
Correct. They get to train them and try them for free. And that's the whole part of the work-based learning, the OJT and all that. And that's the design of WIOA for it. Because there's a whole lot of people that need, a whole lot of businesses that need people, but it costs, well, you all know, it costs a lot to try to hire someone and train someone. This way it gives them a little snapshot to see as the individual. And it's the same with our work-based learning all throughout. Doesn't matter if it's this grant or any other. It gives the employer the opportunity to see, is really going to show up on time? Is really going to fit in with our work environment? Or, is he willing to learn? That's what it is. That's the whole thing about WIOA and the work-based learning.
I'm less the math whiz than you are.
Okay, so here's the thing with that. That all depends, because let's say that you have an individual that's in recovery, in phase 3 recovery, but let's say they also have something they have to see their probation and parole officer for one day a week, or they've got to go do something else. Or we would like it to be 40 hours a week, but sometimes it can't be, right? Just with different situations. So the 280 hours, if they've got a busy week and it is scheduled out and they have made like if Rowley's at Amtech, he's made Willie aware that he's gonna need to be off Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for something. It's no different than anybody else. He just wouldn't get paid for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but that 280 hours is what the total time is. So if he works 40 hours a week, it's gonna eat through quicker. So if that makes sense.
And it's not limited to 40 hours indeed, if the position.
Well, we do limit it to 40 hours a week because we don't cover,
Yeah, WIOA doesn't allow overtime and all of that. Yes. So,
but that's an understanding that we make clear with the employer.
yeah,
That we don't just kind of let it loose without discussing this stuff with the employer. We sit down with the employer and say, hey, look, these are parameters. And that's really where the partnership comes in. They're getting, I mean, there's some boundaries always we have to follow, but we'll sit down with them and say, hey, look, this is the way it looks, this is what we think it looks. It's also some of these individuals may have to, they may have to have an appointment where they have to, forget what they call it, but they have to random meetings throughout the day for their addiction and things like that, where they have a mandatory house meeting, maybe like at 3 o'clock. So instead of working till 4, they may only get to work till 3 o'clock. But again, that's one of those understandings that we make clear with the employer, and a lot of times they're okay with it, and sometimes they're not okay with it, but we'll look at a different route at that point. And that's everything I have for the question. Unless you guys have any questions for us.
And where does the grant money come from? It's $200,000.
it's from the state. The state requested from the Department of Labor and then open it up for each of the local areas to go after. So we just went after 200,000, that's all, because all the directors got together and said, I want to do this much, I want to do this much. So I will say, all the directors came together very nicely to decide what they needed for their area, what part of it they wanted to go after. So yeah.
It does not pass through federal law or state, it's just the department.
It's not trade, yeah, no, it goes to the education and labor, right? But like as far as our normal, like where you can jerk 10% off of it, it's not that way. It would be like pass through.
Well, I'm curious where the money originates, so money originates from Washington.
Yes,
comes
yes,
to
come to Kentucky, and then, yes, and then now what the state pulls off the top for their part, I don't know. We are just given, this is the amount, and do y'all want to go after it, how much? And like I said, the directors all got on a call and discussed it, so that everybody got a little bit of it to try to help people in their respective areas.
Do we know how much money is in the current debated budget for this thing program? It something that shows up as a line item in the state budget?
No, this is connected to COVID money still.
Okay.
This is connected to
That's all
COVID
clear,
money
isn't it?
still, yeah.
Strategic plan, realignment link to new document. Stacy May, you're going to educate us.
It's really just informational. I wanted to let you guys know, and just for the sake of time, I'll make it pretty short. The link there will take you to not only the original strategic plan, but the updates that were made during the training session last year that you guys had attended, and the most recent report. You'll see that previously they had all been quarterly, but with the approval today, the next one will not be until, I guess, July. We will do the reporting on the fiscal year ending. So just wanted to let you guys know that the link is up, you guys to review. And if you have any questions, as always, reach out to me. I would love to discuss the plan with you. So that's all on that one.
Our sector reports.
The sector reports, each quarter I do updates from Jobs EQ for the high demand sectors here in the Bluegrass. Those reports, just wanted to let you guys know that those reports are up and available for review also at the link provided on the agenda. As always, if you have questions about the report, or if there's a specific report or report by county that you would like to see, you could reach out to either myself or Rowley, or I believe Hannah also knows how to pull those sorts of reports. And we can get that information over to you. And that is it for that.
Okay. Thank you, Stacy.
You're very welcome.
The last on this list, on this agenda item, is Tiffany is going to share with us any other WIOA updates.
And the only reason that we have that on there is that there's a lot of talk about WIOA reauthorization, right? There's one of the things in it that says that 50% of your adult mislocated worker funds must be spent toward training. We're not worried about that because we typically do 50% anyway. But I know in talking to some of the other directors that are Leos were worried about it and questioning. So I just wanted to point out, we're aware, we're watching real close to see if it does go through. Some of the good things that's proposed in it, you know, the in-school youth and out-of-school youth split is 25-75. They're looking at pushing that out for in-school youth to get 10% more, which would be 35%, which is wonderful, which is a very good thing. In it, they're also looking at increasing the transitional employment from 10%, which is what it currently is, to 15%. But like I said, the big thing is some of the other directors, because we do it differently here. In some of the other areas, they spend the bulk of their funds on staffing instead of client services. So just wanted to give you, we're aware, we're watching. I didn't know if it was something that you all were concerned with, but naturally, whenever it does come, there'll probably be a policy or two we have to update, but I'm not stressed about it. We just adapt and roll and go on.
Anybody have any questions? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's all right. I'm listening. No worries.
Anybody have any questions for Tiffany regarding that subject? Before we move on to number 4, anything else?
That's it. That's the biggest.
Number 4, rec service provider report. And number 5, I assume, Todd, you're gonna be our focus of attention.
You would be correct, Judge. So in your packets, I'll go over Jennifer's report first. You can see so far this year, we've got 37 enrollments. 6 of them were dislocated workers, 2 trade, 9 youth, and 20 adult. And that referral number right there. These referrals come in electronically, and it's something that I monitor. And over the last, I'll say 2 to 3 months, we've seen that number just skyrocket. You know, we had the time period where we were not doing those funded services and trainings and internships and things. And we let all of our partners know that way they weren't sending people with expectations that we would be able to, you know, fund them to go to school or fund them for an internship. And when we got this next allotment of funds, we were able to kind of get back to business. And so our referral numbers have reflected that, and we've seen a large increase. So our case managers are very busy working with the referrals that are coming in. You can see there the list of outreach and meetings that Jennifer's team was doing in the month, and then the events, workshops, and trainings. So this kind of is something that to take note of. All these are things right here that are those basic services. So again, if the funding was not there, these services would still be going on. The bulk of what we're doing are those basic career services. So the outreach and meetings with these places, the events and workshops that we're doing, you know, if we didn't have that large amount of funds to put people back into trainings, we would still be going to the Estill County Library job fair and expungement clinic. We would still be doing the VR events. So these are all types of things when we talk about basic services, that's kind of what these entail. It's not that we're just spending our time and 100% of our time trying to put people into school and training. We're trying to put people back to work and, you know, outreach and help upskill individuals and work on their resumes and things like that. So these are the types of basic services that we're talking about. And then you have our business services. Tamara Finch has been our sole business services person for the last couple months. We recently rehired Alicia Gooch. She was with us when the layoff occurred and took a job that just wasn't a good fit for her. So she came back to us in February. So she's got some previous experience working with us, but you can see there the business services that Tamara was providing during the month. And then we always provide a success story there if you want to take a look at that. I'm not going to read through everything for it, but that's the bulk of Jennifer's report. So I'll be happy to take questions on it and answer any that I can.
Does anybody have any questions for Todd specifically related to this report? Okay, thank you, Todd. So we'll go to one-stop operator.
I'll move to my report now, Judge. So you can see the referral number is also on my report. I've been really helping out a lot with the business services team and Rolly and Tamara. Continue to do that. Do all the rapid responses for the BG CAP project. So I'll always kind of update the employer meetings and job fair things that I'm working on during the previous month. And then all the hiring and VR events. Doing a lot of VR events in February. It was really cool for me because the Baker Intermediate School is where my daughter goes to school, and her gifted and talented class, the VR headsets went out to them. So I got to go out and see my daughter and her classmates do the VR stuff. And I mean, it's really cool. You know, they're always super cool, but you know, when you get to see your daughter doing it and, you know, she was like, oh, my dad's here. So it was super cool for me too. So those VR events are always a fun thing to do, but it was awesome for me to be able to do that there with her school. And then Stacy and I are always recording community resource minutes and business minutes. We've done several with the Bluegrass ad there in the aging department. And then we did one with the Kentucky Workforce Innovation Board on their state plan public comment period. But if you ever know anybody in your counties or area that has a business or an event that you think we could help publicize, reach out to Stacy and we'll get that scheduled so we can promote it on all of our platforms on social media. But that's my report, and I'll be glad to take any questions on that as well.
Oh, and that top grouping where it says Franklin County Schools Job Fair, was that a job fair for the school system?
So Franklin County, in the past couple of years, Judge, we've worked with the Franklin County schools to put on a job fair there. So Rolly and I are in the planning stages of that and recruiting employers. But that's something we've done, what, for the last 2 years now, Rolly?
I think it's creeping up on 3.
3 years. So that's just something that we, a lot of the school systems reach out to us to help plan and recruit employers in. So we'll be out there later in April, I believe, to get that started and be on site. And it's targeted towards their seniors and some of the juniors that may not be looking to go to post-secondary education.
So the target or the target audience is the students, not the Franklin County Schools as an employer.
Right, it's a student.
Correct.
You're not trying to recruit employees for the Franklin County Schools.
It's for the high school students.
For the students.
Yeah.
Like that. I understand.
And they usually invite more than just their actual school, and I get them all mixed up, but there's whole entire schools, the entire Franklin County area, right, schools that are associated with it, they invite all of them. And Mayor, we're also doing one with Success Academy here in Lexington, so they invite the Steve Academy and all them, so we're doing one with them, and we're also doing one with Scott County and Georgetown. Years back, we did one with Paris, with Mayor, Gordon Wilson and Stan.
So in other words, if you all are at any of your meetings and you hear any of your board members, your school board members say, boy, we want to have a job fair for our students, you know a person. You just holler it out.
Judge Hamilton, we had one in Nicholas County not too long.
You know a guy.
That's correct. I think it was maybe a couple of years ago, or maybe about a year ago. Probably a year, yeah, probably a year. So, but if you want to have those conversations again, we want to ask you about.
I appreciate it. It was a learning experience and a start, but I thought it went over well.
Anything else, Todd?
That's all I have, Judge.
And then one more time, does anyone have any questions specifically for Todd? Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's all we have on our agenda before we adjourn. Does anyone else have, Mayor, anything you want to share with the group or ask any board members, any staff members? Any words of enlightenment that we can take away other than what we've already learned?
Judge, I'd just like to mention
Yes,
that I just want to applaud Tiffany for her doing her listening tours with all the Leos. I've had the privilege of going to a couple of those. I know she's getting out. I know she hasn't been to your office yet. She'll be coming soon, I'm sure. But I think it's great that she's taken the effort and initiative to do that. So.
Certainly, Craig, we look forward to that. And she'll be excited about that to come to the center of the universe.
Oh, what is the Chinese place? We're gonna have lunch in Bourbon County, and we're gonna go to that little Chinese place that's put all over the. Yes.
All the three-story building on the face of it.
Listen, if you all find yourself in Bourbon County, you need to go to the Bluegrass Cafe. It is amazing.
Well, I'll tell you what, I ran into some folks that are not from this area, and they said that they ate at it. They called it the place by the railroad tracks. They meant the tracks.
Trackside.
Trackside. And they said they really enjoyed it.
Great, thank you for sharing. Does anyone else have anything before we adjourn? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Motion, do we have a second? Does anybody else want to adjourn? Judge Hamilton does. All in favor of the motion signify by aye. We are adjourned.